Okay. So, in February of my freshman year, around the time of my 14th birthday, my father underwent hernia surgery in his chest, a procedure that, to me at the time, was of little to no significance. We'd been told repeatedly that it was a simple operation and that the body heals quickly, but somewhere along the line an accident occurred. A snip too much and serious illness with a month of recovery. Many times I recall hearing my mother worry that he wouldn't pull through, but I knew that he would. The stress, though, even with such a confidence, and seeing the strongest man alive struggle to survive, has its obvious price. He was nearly out when I had my first panic attack. I don't remember when, where, or what happened, but my mother's convinced that due to the stress of my father's ordeal and my having hidden so many emotions for so long, my biological response was to panic. It happened more and more, fluctuating in severity until I couldn't handle even everyday tasks. Talking about school or misunderstanding what someone said was all that it took, even if I was left alone and to my own devices. My thoughts would become negative or anxious. I had no way of handling it and didn't understand the practicality of positive thinking, nor did I believe in the power I have over my thoughts to change them from terrible things to anything else. This defeatist attitude and isolation due to the trouble I'd caused made a perfect environment for me to lose hope completely. I had no friends, and I had the power to change anything from the mundane to pleasant into something wretched. My ability to convince even myself of whatever I choose is something I still cannot fully comprehend, but as time goes on, I believe I'm gaining tools to control it. It wasn't at this time pertinent to mask my feelings, actions, and thoughts from my parents, as the panic attack startled me, and all the time at home was all the time that I knew. They saw me slipping, and all the while my mother was so close with me, and her breath was warm, and with soft words of endearing nicknames, a tone so sad and tender and loving, and constant encouragement and inquiry. And at this time I was honest with them, brutally and sickeningly honest. With so much unnecessary pain inflicted for the sake of honesty, when whims or tragic things or irrational fears and terrible images presented themselves beneath my eyelids, how does the green fruit know what is normal and what is abnormal? And so, when those you call home ask to know the deepest and especially the scariest things that you've considered, in search of my own sanity and regaining normal, I explain calmly to parents, to physicians, to therapists, to psychologists, and psychiatrists. In a situation low to the earth, kept quiet by embarrassment and misunderstanding, in a new practice to humanity, and one maintaining the power over someone's life's outcomes, right and wrong, I learned from the very start, do not exist. What is evil? Men may debate and disagree, but certain acts can generally be unanimously considered evil by all men. Let us think, for example, as a philosophy professor of mine once demonstrated the act of killing innocent babies. Killing innocent is a circumstance that may allow such a thing. But in the broad and rhetorical sense, killing babies is evil, with no ulterior of greater good, killing for the sake of killing, the purity of life in a newborn child. And when this action is evil, then a person enacting it as such is considered evil. But imagine that the individual killing babies suffers from psychosis. Philosophers can agree that those inflicted with psychosis are not evil regardless of the possible evil acts, because evil is defined by intent. Psychotic individuals are unaware of the repercussions of their actions on other individuals, and consider fellow human beings to be nothing more than furniture, The spirit is no thing, and the person is really of no irreplaceable importance. Still 15, an argument with my mother escalated to a point it never should have, and for the first and only time in my life I yelled at her. We stood rigid in her bathroom. I was furious and frustrated with her blind trust and hope in psychology and pharmacology to heal me. I had been on medications for over a year, and rather than feeling hope for a bright and sunny future, I had been in the hospital emergency room numerous times from adverse reactions to the handouts of different prescriptions they tried on me. Seroquel sent me twice into the ER with acute dystonic reactions. The tensing of different large muscle groups spasmodically without my conscious control. It appears to be a seizure, though I am conscious the whole while, becoming so tired, sore, and dehydrated from constant movement of every muscle. So in the bathroom I yelled, and I took Ambien I was prescribed to sleep. Just one sentence, the words are long forgotten, but the action. One handful of perhaps 20 hard sleeping pills dry into my mouth and trying to swallow, tears haven't a chance of maintaining sight on my eyes. What a sight it must have been. She grabbed me, something else never before and never again to occur, and forced me to spit them out. Again, so much danger from my naivety, though admittedly I was desperate in this act and probably was crying for help. I wasn't aware that so many Ambien would have been fatal to consume. I didn't expect her to manhandle me as she did. I thought it would be one way to end the conversation and make a statement against the providing of pills to me so freely, and I would sleep dizzy and deep for a day or two. Soon after I admitted to my regular therapist, Dr. Anna, that I'd had thoughts of hurting myself or others, as every professional eloquently states it. In retrospect, of course, regardless of my seriousness, it was as if I was being persecuted for a crime, like framed for insanity, and every appointment was an interrogation. Eventually, I admitted to what they had seemingly been wanting to hear for so long, and the instant that I did, they pounced. I remember being referred to a child psychologist in a nearby town, the only one we could get an appointment with in the state in the next 6 months. I waited to see him and speak with him. My therapist, psychiatrist, and parents explained many times the need for me to meet with an actual child psychologist and let him draw his own conclusions. And this I wanted as well. Every time I met with a new professional, I hoped for them to tell me I was fine. The worst thing I got going for me was a bit of a weird hypochondria that's been perpetuated by my family. This, or I needed a definition of what in God's name was the matter with me. Never was I given either request. I've been classified over the years as depressed, bipolar, mixed state, psychotic, delusional, and paranoid, but never have I fully agreed with these terms. Of course, they come from different people, but at some time or another, I could convince them I was anything without any special effort. If I answered the question they posed as truthfully as I could without worry of consequences, my diagnoses were more frightening. After researching these disorders independently and taking courses related in psychology, I am firmer in conviction the diagnosis was hasty and based each time, without all possibilities considered. How's it going? Is it good? Should I stop? Are you there? Hello? Hello? I'll just keep going. Fuck it. I was honest with the psychologist in Yakima, a session for 30 minutes, though cut short because of business with my mother in the room. In finality, he suggested the best place for me was Carondelet, or Lourdes Medical Mental Health Center, back at home in the Tri-Cities. The reasoning was that I was in need of a stable child psychologist, and since the money has never been an issue for medical expenses in my family, the quickest guarantee to securing stable professional help would be admittance, inpatient, and evaluation. The only licensed child psychologists near home were located within this facility. To even meet with them a single time requires admittance until they have the time to speak with you. It sounded to me like a hell of an adventure. I'd been to the general hospital before, though only in the ER, and my mother is a pediatric nurse. Until that point, I'd always been shown complete respect in medical situations where I'm the patient, even in therapy. When my mother sat in the sessions with me by request, we always got things how we wanted them, and nothing had been so unpleasant and in my face to find issue with. Certainly the things they were doing through that kindness were unfavorable, but sessions were a mystery to me. Taking notes of things I couldn't even begin to imagine, terminology so advanced like static in my ears, and prescriptions for little pills I knew no details of, aside from they should help me somehow. She cried, my mother, when the doctor first suggested Lourdes. Mother knew, but she loved me. Doctor knew to ask me, not her, would you like to go in for a night or so? They have a bed waiting for you. To hear that someone had a bed waiting for me was music to my ears. I'd been painfully antisocial for far too long, and I knew this would be a further escape from the real world, which is so bitterly disappointing. She knew, my mother, but she let me go. Though it was a nightmare, for a constant 4 days and 3 nights, and she knew. She didn't hide from me what I wanted in my unknowing for my search for happiness. And now I will end there, and the next one will be about being in a mental facility. Hooray!